Hello and welcome to Unqualified Opinions. I'm Will Beiermann, joined by, at long last, Tim Seipel.
The ginger's back, guys. Ginger is back.
And today we're going to be talking about the Super Bowl this weekend, one of the most exciting Super Bowls, at least for me, that I've seen in, honestly, maybe even like the last 10. I'm just so hyped up to watch the Bengals and the Rams play. I mean, it's a more interesting matchup than I ever could have asked for, honestly.
I think you could even make a case for this playoffs being one of the most exciting playoffs. I mean, the games that we're seeing, obviously the Bengals Chiefs games this past week and a half ago, the Chiefs Bills game, that was insane. I ended up being able to go to that, so that was a lot of fun. And then obviously on the other side of the ball, I mean, Bucks Rams, this playoffs has been probably the most exciting and probably the most Cinderella-esque storyline, because usually you have teams that are, the first seed and the second seed, usually on one side of the bracket, they're able to make it. But, you got a 6 seed versus a 4 seed. That is unheard of. And I just can't wait to be able to watch. As a fan, obviously I have my team, Rip Packers. But as a fan, I'm able to watch this and I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Well, hey man, I'm a Lions fan, so I watch all the playoffs as just a general fan of football.
Of course.
But no, you're absolutely right. I think the number one thing the league needs is for this Super Bowl to live up to the other playoff games. Because you're right. I mean, if we get a great close matchup here without a weird controversial ending, this could be like the greatest playoff of all time. Just all the games, the way they've ended, the amount of overtimes, the amount of sudden death plays and close games. Again, if the Super Bowl delivers and lives up to the other games we've had, this is just one of the, if not the greatest, just broad playoff experiences the NFL's ever seen, which I think they really needed because we've kind of seen some consistent lower ratings and lower views for the NFL. I'd say the NBA's. I mean, they're obviously still got a ways to go, but I think they're catching up more than ever.
Yeah.
So, the NFL's really needed this, and they've really delivered with a great playoff. I mean, it's been Brady and Mahomes and co. for too long.
Yeah.
It's nice to see some fresh teams in there.
Yeah, and I think the worst way that this could end is overtime with a touchdown. I mean, can you imagine getting to the end of that game? I mean, already they're going to have to change that rule, because not to get too much into the rules and the details of that stuff, but man, that would be the worst way to end this playoff, by a touchdown without the other team being able to respond. But that's a whole nother story. As of right now, I mean, we're probably going to get into some of the Super Bowl preview, kind of some of the teams, what we think about, what are the keys to the Rams to win, what are the keys for the Bengals to win. So I don't know, Will, if you have any thoughts on that.
I'm just going to start off with a couple easy questions, just light ones. You've been out of the booth for a while,
of course,
out of the game. So we're gonna get you back in here, easy win. So
yeah,
just which players? Give me a player on each team that you're most excited to watch. I'd say try to go besides the quarterbacks. I mean, Joe Burrow is, of course, the coolest guy in football. Matthew Stafford, it's kind of his revenge tour. Aside from the quarterbacks, who are you most excited to see in the Super Bowl?
So I think the easy answer is right. I have both offensive side and the defensive side, okay? Obviously, Jamar Chase, he going from the beginning of the season when they were talking about how he's not seeing the ball right and how it's a little bit different than college. And I didn't draft him in my fantasy league because of that. And I saw
did.
That.
It was a massive success.
Oh, man.
Round.
Shut up. It's just insane how he's kind of burst onto the scene and become one of the best Bengals receivers in one season. I know that's a little early with Chad Ochocinco, but he's well on his way. So, I think about Jamar Chase, but, on the defensive side, I think about Trey Hendrickson. I mean, that guy, can ball out, and he has been a huge offseason pickup for the Bengals,
and he was
especially for the offseason.
He was a widely criticized offseason pickup too. A lot of people thought it was a massive overpay, and he's really gone out there. I mean, he turned into a Pro Bowler this season. So, tremendous season from him.
Yeah.
I think now my next question for you though is, starts off as more of a statement for me. I think in all the Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford, and Jamar Chase, Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp, all these guys, I think we've really not talked much about Aaron Donald,
No.
I mean, he's consistently, part of it's the way he plays. He's an interior defensive lineman, and he's just one of those guys he's so dominant that it's hard to, really recognize him for his standout play, because, he just is so consistently great. I mean, he's a multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year, but he's a quiet guy at a quiet position for a pretty quiet team for the last couple seasons. So, I don't think nearly enough people have talked about how Aaron Donald's, easily a Hall of Famer, one of the best defensive players of our generation. And not enough people are talking about him, him getting his chance at a ring. It's Stafford getting a chance at a ring, Joe Burrow getting a ring. Aaron Donald's all pro, all decade.
Yeah. No, and Aaron Donald is quiet when he's not choking anybody out. But that's another story. That Aaron Donald is probably going to be my guy to look at, because if the Rams, this is probably something I'll get into a little bit later, but if the Rams are able to get consistent pressure against the Bengals, I am writing off the Rams winning easily. If they're able to penetrate that really weak offensive line, obviously we saw against the Chiefs. I believe it Chiefs. Who did the Bengals play right before the Chiefs? They had 9 sacks. The Titans. They had 8-9 sacks.
It was 9
on Burrow.
sacks. Yeah.
That's
Burrow
insane.
Got absolutely shelled that game.
And then the next game, I think they had 1 or 2. The Chiefs had 1 or 2 on them. So obviously they made a huge adjustment, which was a phenomenal play, a phenomenal job by the coaching staff to be able to prep the Bengals offensive line in time for the Chiefs. But I think this is going to be a really, really difficult, in the trenches, fought out game, because it's going to come down to Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Michael. I think it's Michael Floyd or Leonard
Floyd's
Floyd.
out there
Leonard
too.
Floyd. This defensive line for the Rams is so well rounded, and they're going to be able to come at you with so many different guys. You can't just double team one dude and expect the other guys to be able to cover the ground. So I think that's going to be a huge key for them. So I had Aaron Donald as the other guy to kind of keep an eye out for in the Super Bowl for the Rams.
Obviously one of the highlights to watch too is going to be looking at the Rams defense again, Jalen Ramsey versus Jamar Chase. How exciting of a wide receiver cornerback matchup do you get? I'm just excited to get to see those guys. I'm sure Chase is going to get double teamed. The Bengals, they have T. Higgins and Drew Sample's been playing well. Tyler Boyd. So they have some weapons. They have weapons. So you got to wonder though, how much are we going to get to see this one-on-one matchup between Chase and Ramsey? And that really could be a key to the game there.
Right. Ramsey's the kind of guy that's going to be this is my guy. I'm going to be on him the entire. I don't want any help. He is going to leave it all out there with Jamar Chase, and it's going to be a one-on-one battle the entire game. I personally believe. I don't think that as long as Jalen Ramsey is on Jamar Chase, I don't think that they're going to double team them, because the whole point is you're putting your best player against their best player and seeing how it pans out. Jalen Ramsey's easily been one of the best, if not the best corner in the league for the past five or so years, and so he's ready for the competition. Jamar Chase is ready for the competition, and it's going to be really interesting to see how things pan out.
And then to look at one more offensive player, we're going to look at Van Jefferson. Actually, he's the third string receiver for the Rams. He got bumped up on the depth chart because Robert Woods is out for the season.
I had him on my fantasy team. That sucked.
That's tough for sure.
Yes.
But Cooper Kupp has turned into just one of the absolute best receivers in the league. I'd take him over Chase still. I guess right now, is Chase the better long-term option? Yes. But right now, Cooper Kupp's the best receiver in the league.
I would agree.
Odell's going to draw, his fair share of coverages and stuff. I really think it's going to end up coming down to guys like Van Jefferson and Tyler Higbee, the guys who are going to they're not going to see as many doubles. They're going to have a better chance getting the ball thrown their way. It's going to be up to guys like Van Jefferson to rise to the occasion. And we saw him have just a monster game against the Buccaneers. If he can repeat that, that's a big advantage there, for the Rams. Again, Kupp is going to get double teams, just all kinds of stuff thrown his way all game. Right now, the Bengals are going to be trying to scheme how to get Cooper Kupp out of the game, how to make him not a factor in that one. So it's going to be up to, the small-time guys for the Rams to come in there and kind of try to pick up some of the load for those star players.
And this is a huge mind game as well. You don't think that the other teams have also tried to stop Cooper Kupp in different ways. I think back to when they played the 49ers. I think Cooper Kupp had 122 yards or so and a touchdown. He still performed at a high level. He's been a beast in this playoffs. And so, I think about the previous teams that I've tried to scheme against Cooper Kupp and OBJ and Matthew Stafford, and they just haven't been able to do it. One thing that is a huge weakness for the Rams right now is the way they run the ball. I mean, I look at the stat lines, and it's typically 15 rushes for Cam Akers and 45 yards, which just isn't cutting it when you really need a productive side on the running game. And so I would almost look for the Bengals to scheme to try to force the Rams to run the ball down their throats, because at this point, covering all of their receivers is just not going to do it, especially when you have Matthew Stafford at quarterback, easily a top 5 quarterback right now.
I mean, as far as the rushing attack goes, I mean, the Bengals definitely have an advantage with Mixon there. Samaje Perine has been a good fill in there. So, I mean, the Rams' ground attack's been, a little iffy at times. I don't know if they can help the Rams that much if the Bengals just come out and can manage to shut down that passing attack. I think now we kind of got to get to the big one, though. We do have to talk quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, I mean, has there been a bigger, rise or just in stock as a part of the football culture and sports culture as a whole than Joe Burrow recently?
I mean, I think about Tom Brady, and obviously Tom Brady was a guy that was kind of before my age. I mean, drafted 99, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was drafted 99. Yeah. I was born in 2000. Okay, so obviously I didn't see how he played when he replaced Drew Bledsoe in whichever season that he did. But even when he first started playing, it wasn't like he was throwing these huge numbers out there. He was a consistently good quarterback, and he was doing a great job. But he wasn't playing at the level that we're seeing Joe Burrow play in his second season, coming off of an ACL injury. That is unheard of. And Joe Burrow is playing at a high level with the offensive line that he has too. You think about that. He doesn't have nearly as much time as a lot of these other quarterbacks who are succeeding have. I mean, I think about Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford has a pretty good offensive line.
And again, I'm not just talking about football. I'm talking about it as a cultural phenomenon. As a poster boy for the sports world. He is just he's the coolest player in football right now. But I think the thing you have to look at with Joe, though, compared to Brady, the only thing I'll say is, Brady was in a much more conservative era. I mean, it's hard to put the stats there, but Burrow and Brady have always kind of been compared to each other. We'll flip to my end of things. Matthew Stafford, my Detroit Lions quarterback for 11 seasons. First off, just the response the city of Detroit and that Lions fan base has given to him has been just overwhelmingly supportive. I've been following him all season. I'm super hyped to see Stafford, go in and hopefully win a championship. He's, to me, the most underrated quarterback of all time. The stats are there. I mean, he's only made one Pro Bowl, though. Yeah, and if you look at that, it's because he's playing for a team that they just don't get the same amount of love that, other star quarterbacks are. He gets overlooked. He's been overlooked because of the market he played in, the team he played for, their lack of success. You can put a lot of the lack of playoff success on Matthew Stafford. But at the same time, he's part of a couple totally dysfunctional, front offices with some bad general managers. He had some terrible coaches like Matt Patricia. And, growing up, I felt like there was always one season we'd always be missing something huge. We had no receivers one year, no running game one year, terrible offensive line. He just never had a complete team around him. He has that with the Rams now. That being said, Stafford still has, he struggles still sometimes. He still makes some of those bad decisions he made in Detroit. You can kind of see some of his flaws as a player there. That's going to be the thing. This is his big time game. He came to LA. He said, I want to play in big time games. Yeah. It's still hard to tell how he'll stand up to the pressure because he's been a little shaky in some of their playoff games. That game-sealing interception, or what should have been a game-sealing interception with the 49ers, he's just lucky they dropped that. It was a bad throw.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, and I completely agree. I think what I love about Matthew Stafford is the intangibles that he has. Obviously, he has all the stats in the world to show that in his awful situation, he has made the best of it. No offense to all those Detroit Lion fans, including the one in the room right now. But he did make the best out of that really, really tough situation, and he stuck with it for a long time. But it's really
without a complaint.
Right.
That's the big thing I can say about him.
And he has succeeded at a high level where, I immediately think back to the game where I think he dislocated his shoulder, or it was something with like a severe injury in his shoulder.
He broke some ribs one time.
Broke some ribs. Just goes back out there for the final play of the game and gets a touchdown. There's a lot of respect that I have for Matthew Stafford, and there's hardly anything that I can say that was bad against him. Like I try to think about something that he has done personally as a person, and you try to look at that situation, and that guy he's a stand-up guy, really, really easy to root for, especially for where he came from and what he's doing now in his first season as the Rams quarterback. And that's, talk a little bit about Jared Goff. Jared Goff wasn't really able to perform at this level at all, and that just goes to show, what a heck of a trade. The Rams have been doing a really good job. They don't really have a whole lot of draft capital anymore. Jalen Ramsey, trading for Von Miller, trading for Matthew Stafford, some of those pieces have really worked out. And you almost wonder, okay, so if the Rams don't win, is that a loss? Is that a bad season? I wouldn't say it's a bad season, but they're definitely putting themselves in a position to win by getting these players and hopefully keeping them.
Here's the thing people don't think about enough is just the value of having a shot at the Super Bowl. I know that sounds dumb, but think about it. We have teams like the Panthers, never made it back to a Super Bowl after their loss to the Broncos. You have teams that look like they have a huge title window. Stuff can go wrong so fast. We thought the Seahawks were going to be around for a lot longer.
Even the Packers.
We've been expecting the Packers to get back in the Super Bowl, and the Packers are a great team. I'm not a fan of them. You know that, Tim, but I can't deny that Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. They're a great team. I think generally when you have a young team like the Bengals or a team like the Rams, Stafford's got a few more good years in them. The Rams have most of their guys under contract still. I think we generally assume, if they lose, they get back next year. They're going to be in the mix for the next couple of years. People don't realize how often that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Titans, AFC Championship, they're kind of not in that tier anymore. You see this a lot of the times. Jaguars. I'm not just going to keep listing teams, but
Blake Bortles. The GOAT of our decade.
You can't. People undervalue how hard it is to get to the Super Bowl once.
Yeah.
Again, people are going to expect teams that lose to go back there. A lot of times they don't. So I think that's just kind of my little takeaway there. So this is like everything for these two teams is what I mean. The Bengals are really young. So what? Bills haven't made it yet. They're young. Chiefs, they're always going to have Mahomes and Allen around. Justin Herbert's rising up. Who knows if they'll actually get a chance? They can make a bunch of deep playoff runs. You lose one game, you're done. You really only get one shot in a lot of ways. So for the city of Cincinnati, this is their biggest game in decades.
Easily. And it's been really, really fun to watch those reactions. I remember I was looking at a clip that kind of put together a bunch of the reactions from the Bengals fans, and that was just so much fun to watch. A team that was 4-12 last year go into this season and end up a 10-7 team. That's not phenomenal. It's not bad, but it's not great. And just hit the ground running in the playoffs hot. And it kind of reminds me of the Packers. When they went to the Super Bowl, they were a 6 seed.
Yeah.
And they weren't necessarily the best team in the NFL, but they were hot at the right time. And it's really fun to watch teams that are hot.
I wouldn't even talk about the Packers, Baltimore Ravens, when they beat the 49ers a couple years ago. They were third, fourth seed there.
Right.
Joe Flacco got hot, won the championship. The Bengals, I would say, have the advantage of momentum there. The Rams have won all their games so far, obviously, but I think the Bengals have just done it in such a exhilarating, dominant fashion. They probably have a little bit of a momentum edge there.
The Bengals are used to being the underdogs. I think that's a huge thing. They're used to being underestimated, and they faced that throughout this playoffs in every game. And now here we are in the game to win it all, and they are on the other side of the Rams. I think that's a phenomenal story. Love Zachary Taylor, and we love to hear that.
Do you have a team you're going to pull for here, Tim?
Yes. I think because of the huge drought that we're seeing with Cincinnati, it's hard not to root for a team that went 4-12 last year. But in the end, I'm probably going to be happy either way. We've got a good matchup. I can root for Matthew Stafford. Huge respect for him. Kind of be fun to watch him win a ring. And then how about that halftime show? That halftime show is going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully, a lot better than previous years.
It's certainly one of the more interesting kind of halftime show lineups we've seen.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. We might have to talk about that another time. But yeah,
I think for me, it's tough to pick who I want to win. I think first of all, I will say we've been a lot less technical and statistic on this show than we usually are. But I mean, that's just how this playoff run feels to me. It's been an emotional one, and it's just been so much fun. I wanted to come in here with my buddy and, just talk about this stuff, like, without pouring over Pro Football Reference or ESPN or any of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it almost reminds me of March Madness. Why do we love March Madness so much? Because it is so unpredictable. Anything can happen. And in the sport of football,
we don't get that.
We don't get it that often. It's possible.
It is a sport of dynasties,
right? It is. And you think about how many years the Patriots are always in it. The Chiefs are always in it. You're looking at all these teams. I mean, Packers are usually in the running.
In the mix there.
It's not very often that you see a team that's a 6 or a 7 seed or teams that are playing in the playoffs that are none of them were in the top 3 on either side of the conference, right? Or other side of the divisions. It's insane to look at this game and understand the weight behind it and how did we get to this point over the past month and a half. And you think about the games that the Bengals have lost, the games that the Rams have lost, and you find them here in this moment to win it all. And you ask, how in the heck did that happen over the course of this playoffs? And it's wonderful for the sport. It's great to see. And honestly, I'm just excited to eat some chips and to watch some football.
So yeah, for my part, picking who I personally want to win again. As a Lions fan, you have no idea how much I feel for Cincinnati. Just mediocre at best, terrible at worst, just again and again and again. You have no idea how much, I'm torn here because they're an easy team to root for. Joe Burrow's an easy guy to root for. And it's just hard not to want this, honestly, basement-dwelling franchise to win as a fan of another basement-dwelling franchise.
Yeah.
But then on the other half of it, I got Stafford. And Stafford may not be... I don't know. He's probably not a Hall of Famer. I know people have argued, with his stats, maybe a Super Bowl, a dominant Super Bowl MVP and a Super Bowl win could do it. I don't know. But, I mean, he just, to me, seems like a guy who's going to be destined to be underrated and, not talked about that much after he's gone. But he's been my Aaron Rodgers since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I think just for that reason. I mean, Cup's also cool. Fantasy team 5 years in a row. Cup's been my guy. But, I mean, I think it's weird to say, I don't care if the Rams win. I want Matthew Stafford to win. I'd rather have the Bengals than the Rams, but Stafford just puts them over. I will say I'm going to be cheering for the Rams for my guy Stafford.
All right, well, we'll have to make some bets on that.
Well, let's just wrap this one up now. Let's make some quick predictions, Tim.
Okay.
Final score first.
Final score. I'm going to go Bengals 27-23.
Rams 31. Bengals 21. 10-point win for the Rams.
Not a close one. Dang.
I'm going to say it's going to be one of those games that, it feels closer than it is.
Of course. Yeah.
Who has more passing yards, Stafford or Burrow?
I'm going to go with Burrow. I mean, they're going to have to pass a lot.
I'm actually going to take Burrow, too.
Yeah, I mean, that running game is going to be really hard to get going with Von Miller and Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd on the other side of the ball. So, yeah, I'm going to have to, that's why I'm going with Burrow.
Who wins, in air quotes, who wins the matchup between Jalen Ramsey and Jamar Chase?
Jamar Chase. I know a little bit of a hot take, but Jamar Chase is just too good to be covered for the entire game.
I'm actually going to take Ramsey on this one.
Really? Okay.
And then how many times do you think Burrow's going to get sacked?
I say Burrow's going to get sacked 4 or 5 times.
I'm going to say he takes at least 6. I mean, this is with me saying that the Rams win. The Rams win 31-21.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going to say he gets hit at least 6 times. And lastly, who's your Super Bowl MVP?
Super Bowl MVP? Joe Shiesty, guys. Got to go with Joe Shiesty.
I'm going to take Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald.
I think he's going to rise to the occasion. I think it's going to be his big moment.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
All right. Well, yeah, that's it for this time. Just, again, super great to be back here with my guy, Tim Seipel. Me, Paul, Marco, Tim, Jared, the rest of the crew will continue to produce some stuff as we get ready for March Madness. We'll definitely have a lot of stuff for that for you guys, but let us know how you guys feel about the Super Bowl in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, all the stuff that, every YouTuber tells you to do. Man, it's going to be a great game. You guys have fun with it.